Hello, family and friends. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Cody. When I last left you, I was departing from Bainbridge, Maryland in the Naval Academy Prep School. Today, our adventure takes us to Butte, Montana, and Montana Tech at that time. Mother, again, working the magic that she always did, had been sending videos to Montana Tech as they were recruiting Tracy to come play football for them. But Tracy had already committed and made up his mind that he was going to the State School of Science in North Dakota at Wahpeton and play football there. So they looked at my football videos from the previous couple of years, and of course I ended up finding out that their defensive coordinator was Butte Central's head coach when we played them for the state title game in the fall of 1972, Sweet Kinnison. Montana Tech's head coach was Bill Sprinkle. So they offered me a scholarship, and off I was headed to Butte, Montana. Well, in going to visit the school, one of the first individuals that I encountered was a football player, a senior guard from Ohio by the name of Dan Rominski. And it was his duty to convince me to go into mining, become a mining engineer. There was a mining department, and various of the elements of the school had different areas, and there was petroleum and environmental and a couple others. I don't remember very much about it, but anyway, they had given Dan Rominski $50 to try and convince me to go into mining engineering. And of course, that $50 went into some imbibement by both Dan and myself and a couple other football players. We went to a place called the Loading Zone. I don't know if it's even there anymore in Butte, but I know that it did have a fire, so I don't know if they reopened it or not. But I went there, decided that, yeah, I'd go ahead and go. I wasn't going to stay at home because Mother was going to put the cattle prod to me and get me off to school, so I was headed to Butte. Anyway, I get there, we go out, have some fun, we spend that 50 and probably another 50 or two out of all of our pockets, just enjoying the confines of Butte, Montana and some of their establishments. It also turns out that the head of the mining engineering program, Professor, what was his name? Darn it. Miter. Professor Miter. Anyway, he decided to get me a summertime job in the mines in Butte. So I went home, got my stuff packed up. I didn't stick around Wolf Point very long. I did work a little bit doing odd jobs from when I left the prep school in March until I reported to my job in Butte. It was sometime in the middle of June, so I had a couple months in Wolf Point. Well, during that time, I told you that I'd discovered drinking and smoking. Well, we quit the cigarettes, but we didn't stop the smoking. We discovered herbicidal medicine, so I call it. But anyway, I get to Butte. They get me lined out on a job, and I'm headed to the Kelly Mine. And the Kelly Mine was about, I want to say about 4,800 feet below the ground. And my job was to haul 48-pound sacks of phosphate balls to deacetize the water that they used in the mines for drilling. And so I did that for 6 weeks. And again, that money that I was earning, I was getting paid every 2 weeks, and I was supposed to keep that as spending money for college. Well, having too much fun, just like the prep school, taking that paycheck and heading to the club, I discovered some of the other establishments throughout Butte. A couple of my favorites, just from my memories, were Mom's Cellar was a place out on Continental Divide, little basement place, kind of like our basement house on Highway 13. And it was a nice joint, a lot of dancing, good bands, good music. Really enjoyed it. Another place that I discovered was, out on the flats. It was called, oh goodness, can't remember. It was owned by a Vanio family though, and I became good friends with Kevin Vanio, who was one of the sons and entrepreneurs there in the bar. They had a little cafeteria attached to it, so basically when I wasn't working in the mines and I wanted to go out, I would go and grab a cab or find a ride somehow and get down to the establishment, eat my supper, go into the bar and start drinking and dancing and having a good time. And then the last, well, it won't be the last one I mentioned, but another dancing establishment that I frequented was a place called Thatch's Hatch. And it turns out that Thatch's Hatch was owned by John Thatcher, who was a member on the Butte Central coaching staff when we played them for the title. And he was also on the coaching staff at Montana Tech when I arrived. And we became good friends and still are to this day. And I appreciate that. And here's a shout out to John Thatcher. He was able to sneak me into a couple games. And I'll get that story going here too. But anyway, I had those three establishments then that I was taking part in and dancing and drinking and having a heck of a good time. And throughout the journey of those three establishments, I ended up meeting a gentleman by the name of Ed Callahan. Ed was a Vietnam veteran. He came home from the war, and this was in 1974, the summer of 74, and he ended up in Butte. What happened was he came home from the war. They weren't too kind to veterans at that time, as you know, and his folks, again, didn't want him laying around. He was just trying to adjust to life back in the States. And what he did was he went to the bus depot and he plopped $50 down and said, "Where will this get me?" And they took a circle and mapped it out, and Butte, Montana was one of the places that came out for a $50 bus ticket, and that's how he ended up with Butte. And we ended up becoming great friends, both being kind of in the military. Him more so than I. He had some stories about Vietnam, and I'll leave those for him and his memories. But anyway, we used to run together. We both loved to dance with the girls. They loved to dance with us. It became quite a feat for us, because we would go to the bars with not much money in our pocket, and we'd get 3 sheets to the wind, because the girls would want to dance with us and invite us to their table, and of course buy us drinks. So that was an awful entertaining and fun time for me and Ed Callahan. And it turns out that Ed was also registered to go to Montana Tech, and he was on the GI Bill as well. So anyway, I spent my summer there. Didn't save up a whole lot of money, but I worked in the mines. I did work on July 4th. And when I worked in the mines, you worked 3 different types of shift. You worked the day shift, the evening shift, and the graveyard shift. And the day shift was worth $40. The evening shift was worth $45, and the graveyard was $48. And overtime was again time and a half. But on that holiday, and I worked July 4th, which was a big event in Butte. It didn't mean anything to me at the time, but anyway, they have this big parade and march through town and stuff. But I pulled a shift for a buddy of mine at the mine and ended up with double time and a half pay. So that was a pretty good payday. Didn't mind it at all. But anyway, I worked in the mines for about 6 weeks. It was so hot and sweaty down there. I had lost 30 pounds. I had gained up to about 270. And when I started football, I weighed at 240. So I had lost 30 pounds just working and sweating. Lord knows I should have put weight on with all the drinking I did and the good meals at the cafeterias. But so be it. I ended up weighing in at 240 and playing football at Montana Tech. We reported there and started football practice. College football was a whole different ball game than high school football. I enjoyed the game, but once you got to college, it was a job. You earned every dollar of the scholarship that they gave you. Weightlifting during the off times, certainly putting out at practice. I wasn't very much of a practice player, that's for sure. But I had a good football season. I sat the bench for quite a bit, and one of the reasons why is because I was a defensive tackle. And of course, I told you that Swede Kinnison, the former head coach of Butte Central, was the defensive coordinator at Montana Tech. And we didn't see eye to eye. I had told him that we'd have kicked their butt if we'd played them in Wolf Point rather than Naranche. Well, he didn't take too kindly to that, so he wasn't that kind of guy. But my good friend John Thatcher kept an eye out on me. I was a backup for the two starters. It just so happened that one of the starters broke his hand, so that put three defensive tackles in a cycle. There was Danny Duke from Cutbank. He broke his hand, so he lost most of his season. There was Tim Lechner from Billings West. He was a freshman as well. We were all younger recruits. The other one was a kid by the name of Jim Holm, and he was out of some school in Idaho. And once Dan Duke broke his hand, Jim was inserted into the lineup instead of me. And rightfully so, because I understand Mr. Kinnison, Swede, Coach Kinnison, did not like the fact that I didn't really put out in practice. But that was okay. There was an occasion in the last two games where John Thatcher snuck me off of the bench because Swede was up in the booth on the headsets, and he snuck me in the game. And I do have the distinction of having sacked twice a pro football quarterback. He was playing at Minot State at the time, and he was... oh, now I can't remember the guy's last name. Jim. Anyway, they had the number one passing attack in the nation in NAIA that year. He was the quarterback, and they had a little black receiver by the name of Jimmy Webb. And he's pretty fast. But anyway, I got snuck into the game, and I ended up stacking the quarterback a couple times. And... I also did fairly well against the run, so I showed what I can do in actual gameplay. And we come to the last game of the year against Western Washington, and once again I found myself on the bench. And that was okay too, because my good friend Coach Thatcher snuck me into the game again, and I did rather well. But I enjoyed... I didn't care for college football, though, in all honesty, mostly because of the practices and the fact that I assumed that you had free time, but your time was owned by your football coach and the fact that you had to earn that scholarship. Well, moving on to school, none of the credits or classes that I took at the academy, prep school, transferred. So I came in as an incoming freshman in college. I signed up for calculus because I'd already had that class in Maryland. Then I had chemistry and chem lab, a geology class, and a drawing class. And of course English. You always had some sort of language class. So those were my classes. I did okay. Skipped a few classes during the season. You know, that GI Bill was coming in. Learning to party. Speaking back to Ed Callahan, him and I, and a kid by the name of Benji Stromberg from Havre, we got together. We were a trio, and we ended up convincing the program director for the college radio station, KMSM-FM, say that 3 times, that we wanted to put on a weekend midnight to 3 show. We called ourselves the Three Stooges. And of course, in the summertime, running with Ed, what we would do was we would take some of our GI Bill, we would pool our money and invest in some marijuana. And we continued to do that for a while, even during football season. We would break it up and make tea out of the stems and some of the leaves. Really, that was again part of that rebellious era. That was my introduction to drugs at that early age. I was 18, going on 19. I wouldn't have been 19 until the September of '74. So lots to learn. Getting back to football then, we had a good season. We ended up 6-2. We were second in the Frontier Conference. Carroll College beat us, and that was my first encounter with Coach Pat Petrino's older brother, Putter Petrino, who was the head coach at Carroll College. I became friends with that whole staff later on when I was in Wolf Point coaching football, and we would go to the coaches clinic, so that was good. As far as classes went at Tech, nothing outstanding. I went for 1 semester there, and again, I didn't ride out the winds. I left school again probably in March, midway through the second semester, but I was able to earn a 2.33 grade point average, a little better than C, and school wasn't very good. But I had a lot of experiences in Butte, mostly not so good, especially with academics. Wasn't ready to buckle down and do what I was supposed to do. And so we left there and headed home. Ed Callahan remained a good friend. I ended up being his best man in his wedding. I went back to Butte once I moved home to Wolf Point for his wedding in that summer of '75. By that time I was back in Wolf Point, working in the bar business, working for the city of Wolf Point, just back there becoming a laborer. But that was the last that I played college football. I did, if you want to check it out, make the 1975 Magma, which was the Montana Tech yearbook. And so you'll see some pictures of me in there. If you, I think you can access it online actually. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to that. That's proof that I'm not shooting the breeze here with you, and just sharing with you stories and adventures that I've had. Met a lot of good people in Butte. Still quite a few friends to this day, and throughout the year. In fact, my time in Butte was key to the next school that I attended several years down the road in Billings at Eastern Montana College. And I did 2 tours of duty there. And my first one, I encountered and became part of the Butte Club, an honorary member, and to this day I have many, many friends that I went to school with in Butte and also at Eastern Montana College. And when we meet again, That's where we'll be when I talk about continuing my education and lifetime adventures at those places. So I think with that, we're going to put an end to this episode. And the next one on Sunday will be that first year in Billings at Eastern Montana College. And after that, we'll be in Fargo for a family reunion. So I'll try to get you some video and comments and shares from Fargo at the Cody Reunion 2026. And with that, this is Cody, Coffee with Cody, signing out.